Hello and welcome back to the Talking Ship podcast. In today's episode, I had the opportunity to speak with two young female entrepreneurs in the consumer horticulture space, Kate and Lila from Flourish Plant Company. This duo has been collaborating since their high school science fair and have joined forces to make a first of its kind organic houseplant fertilizer made primarily from food waste. Their business instincts, packaging, and product quality all come together beautifully, and they are now selling in 200 stores nationwide plus online. So without further ado, here is Kate and Lila from Flourish Plant. So tell us, what is Flourish Plant and how did you get it started? What gave you the idea?
Yeah, for sure. So Flourish Plant started a little over 4 years ago. The idea was born many, many years before that, when I was actually a student at the University of Texas down in Austin, which is actually where our headquarters are now. I was struggling to keep my plants alive in my small apartment in Austin, and then subsequently my even tinier apartment in New York City. And so at that point, I reached out to my dad and was like, "You got to help me out here." He was like, "All right, just give them some fertilizer." But at that time, there were really limited products on the market, like really limited, as in just like one product that is like bright blue. And it's not great for the plants, for the environment. And so that's really where the idea, the light bulb went off for me, as far as why is there not a better plant care brand or plant care products kind of for this next generation customer. Even going into some of my favorite plant boutiques in New York City, they just didn't offer a single high quality organic fertilizer. And so it became apparent that there was a real opportunity to build something that was a lot better. And so after thinking on it for a while, I finally got Lila to go to this very funky coffee shop in
I still don't like the coffee shop.
the east side of Manhattan. And I told her about the idea for Flourish, and she basically was pretty much ready to dive in head first.
2 years ago, we launched a first of its kind organic houseplant fertilizer called Flourish Plant Food. It is a 3-2 organic all-purpose houseplant fertilizer that's made of food waste, primarily the discards of industrial fishing from the West Coast and corn steep liquor, which is a discard of cornmeal production. And then we fragrance it with an organic peppermint oil. So it smells great for use in your home. And we wanted to create both a brand and packaging that like really met the needs of the indoor consumer. So we have this dilutable formula. It doesn't take up much space. We wanted it to be beautiful enough that you could leave it on your shelf so you could remember to use it. And then you just pour a little bit of the product, about a teaspoon of the product, into 8 ounces of water and use that to water your plants. We're really proud of the product that we launched and the growth that the brand has had. There have been a lot of changes over the last 2 years as we've grown, but we're now in almost 200 stores across the country, mostly independent plant stores, and then on wonderful websites. We do have our own e-com website as well. And we're just trying to keep growing the business so that anybody who has houseplants and is looking for that next step in plant care can really find great products that they're excited about using and that work.
I love it. So how did you come up with the formula and why food waste? How do you think of that?
Yeah, absolutely. So when we were evaluating kind of like what was the supply chain that we were really passionate about, we took a lot of cues from organic agriculture. So a lot of innovation has really come to the organic ag market, but that doesn't necessarily mean that that's trickling down to the consumer market. So what's going into ag scale is really innovative. And especially with things like you're really seeing a push towards regenerative right now. You're seeing a lot of conscientious farmers and major players in the agricultural space really wanting to do better and be better stewards of the land. And so that's where that sort of closed loop system really started and really originated. I mean, going all the way back to, the Three Sisters and the way in which the Native Americans really cared for the land and how they planted the food. It's corn and fish. And so the ingredients in Flourish are actually corn and fish. So it is the discards of the industrial fishing industry, which come off the piers in San Francisco. So basically 80% of the fish is wasted once you take those fillets off. And so we collect that waste in partnership with our manufacturing partner, and then corn steep liquor, which is a byproduct of cornmeal production. So these two food byproducts go through a 21-day digestion process. And when we were looking at the type of fertilizer that we wanted to bring to market, efficacy was super important. Lila and I are actually childhood friends from competing against one another on the National Science Fair circuit in high school. So the science and efficacy behind the product was, paramount to none. And so what we wanted to do when we set out was we really spent a lot of time interviewing players in the space, understanding the market, understanding, what was going to yield the best fertilizer. And then in conjunction with our scientific advisor, Dr. Carrie Woods, who studies bromeliads and epiphytes in the Hoh rainforest. She's a tenured professor at the University of Puget Sound. She's really advised us on all things efficacy and sustainability, which really helped us get to the formulation that you have today. What's super cool about our formulation is that not only is it a gentle product that's made completely of food waste, but it actually also has tons of trace micronutrients. So in addition to that 332 on your macros, which every plant needs to thrive, you've got micronutrients as well as microbes. And those active microbes help to feed the soil. They're what break down the product initially through the digestion process that Flourish goes through. And so it's a really comprehensive formulation that over the last 2 years, we've spent some time refining and making sure that it's appropriate to go in your home. It's actually also fragrance with peppermint oil, which does have anti-pest properties. So we really try to think about all the different elements of what an at-home fertilizer really could be.
Was that enough?
I think, could you explain this a little bit further? Because holy cow.
We've done that before.
That's amazing. Okay, so we've got the Flourish plant product line that walk us through. You've got the tinctures, the droppers. Walk us through the product line for us.
Yeah, so right now, actually starting March 1st, we have basically 2 products on the market that are available with most of our retailers and online. And so one of those is our kind of classic Flourish bottle. It's a 1.69 fluid ounce bottle glass. And it comes in a cardboard tube that just protects it in shipping. You measure your Flourish into the cap of this glass bottle, and then you mix that with 8 ounces of water. Okay. There's about 20 to 30 servings of Flourish here. So a serving is 8 ounces of water. And then you use that to water your plants. So depending on the size of your plants, you can use that to water anywhere from 1 large to 3 or 4 small plants. You're going to use the same amount of diluted Flourish as you typically water your plants. So this is an awesome product. It has a lot more in it than it looks like, especially because we're talking about indoor plants, not like, out in your yard. You don't need to make a whole gallon. Nobody needs a whole gallon. The next product that we're launching March 1st, which we're super excited about, is our single serving 5-pack. Essentially, these are little liquid IVs of Flourish plant food, and you can use these like individual plant foods. You just rip one of the little packets open, pour it into 8 ounces of water again, and use that to water your plants. We wanted to make it mess-free, simple, and exciting and fun to use for even beginners, because we know fertilizing can sometimes be a dirty word, and using fertilizer can be something that's very new to folks in the indoor market, especially. So we wanted to just make it as easy as possible. The great thing is our customers typically see results from using Flourish in as little as 2 weeks. When we say results, that typically means foliar growth, so leaf growth, overall plant health. So you're going to see often like a perkier, kind of happier seeming plant that stands up a little bit taller. And then there's also greatly improved root and soil health that you're not always seeing, but sometimes that means it can hold a little bit more water in the roots. You're having an active microbiome. It's helping to take up those nutrients better. And so you can see those changes and those results often when just using this 5-pack, and that really gets people excited and hooked on the product, which is why we're psyched to be offering this. On our website, we also offer a really beautiful little glass dilution vessel that looks like a beaker. So it makes it fun to use kind of the science experiment angle. But these are our two main products right now. We are developing some more, which we're super excited about, but those won't come out probably until summer, maybe early fall.
So it's really kind of like a nitrogen boost, like a green up, essentially, for foliage plants is what is the main target, correct?
Yes, it is an NPK, nitrogen, phosphorus, and potassium. Those are the three core macronutrients for plant health. Each of the macronutrients does a little something different for the plant. But we essentially compare it, for people who don't know, an NPK is very similar to like a calorie, fat, protein ratio. It's these pieces that these pieces that the plant literally like builds itself with. You do need all three in a fairly even ratio to have like plant health and growth that is equal across the plant. You want the roots and the stem to be supporting the leaves. So you don't want something that's too nitrogen heavy, just having leaf growth without supporting it with stem and root health as well.
I mean, this is excellent. So I have an example that Flourish may be the right product. So as a person who has worked in a garden center for my entire life, I get questions. So like, we sell everything like comprehensively from A to Z, like from trees to shrubs to perennials, annuals, houseplants, tropicals. I mean, we're bringing stuff in. We're the one place that has everything, all the way down to like the bamboo, like the lucky bamboo. And oftentimes you see that lucky bamboo that's been sitting around and it starts to kind of like yellow up a little bit. Would this be a good recommendation for people that are trying to keep those looking good on their, wherever they put it, if they put it on their office desk, or, in their kids' windowsill or something like that? I mean, is this a good, hey, this thing's yellowing up, give it a couple drops, dilute this thing?
Yeah, so with Lucky Bamboo, because it's most likely in a water medium as opposed to a soil medium, we're just going to recommend that you go even a little lower on the dose. Any plants that are being sort of raised in a water culture are going to have the roots are going to be directly in the water. So the roots are going to be able to take up nutrients immediately. There isn't a soil medium and a microbiome to basically break down any non-bioavailable nutrients and take them up sort of more slowly or as the plant needs them. So that's why if you think about like a hydroponic environment, they are pumping tons and tons of synthetic fertilizers into any type of hydroponic environment. And the reason for that is because synthetic fertilizers are immediately bioavailable. So the plant can take them up immediately. So something like a Lucky Bamboo, you just want to be wary of the fact that that plant is going to take those nutrients up immediately. So with Flourish, we would still recommend actually using Flourish on it, but you're going to want to lessen the dilution even a little bit more. So maybe use half a serving for something like a Lucky Bamboo. What you don't want to happen is, because there's active soil microbes in Flourish, they can feed on kind of whatever's existing in the water. So whatever's come in via the air or even the tap water that is in there, you've got some active microbes and organisms in there, and those can potentially be fed on by the microbes in Flourish. And you don't want to just create a science experiment in the water. We wouldn't advise that. But if you pulled back and used a little bit of a lower dose of Flourish, you could definitely use that on your Lucky Bamboo.
Okay, so you have proven to me that you absolutely know what you're talking about, because that was such a great answer to my question.
Okay.
And seriously, because I mean, I should use this in training for my sales associates that are on the sales floor, because I mean, honestly, that was like really, really a thoughtful and correct answer in my professional opinion. So,
well, we are very rooted in the science, literally, no pun intended. It's very core to kind of what we think about when we think about educating people on plant care. We kind of preach it in two different ways. We talk a lot about like intuitive plant care. So when I'm advising someone, we get plant care questions all the time, as I'm sure you do too, which are like, well, how often do I water? Is every Wednesday good? It's like, well, your plant is not sitting there like waiting around to be thirsty on a Wednesday. And so we talk a lot about intuitive plant care where like you're looking at the signs from the plant. And I think that that actually is a nice segue into this other sort of science element of what we really try to design for the consumer. We wanted to create a foolproof product. So I think a lot of the challenge with fertilizer is that people think it's a scary thing. You hear about fertilizer burn, you hear about over fertilizing. That's partially why we use the science to basically create a product that was nearly foolproof for anyone in a soil medium. A little more challenging if you're in a water culture, but for anyone in a soil medium, this gentle formulation is 70% bioavailable, 30% slow release. So the soil microbes that are actually in Flourish are going to reinvigorate that soil microbiome. And then those 30% of nutrients are going to be taken up by the plant over time. So when we're talking about the science, because it is kind of scary and stressful, we will talk to you about the science until we're blue in the face all day long. But what's really cool about the product is that you can basically tell your customers, like, make sure that the product is coffee colored, not iced tea colored when you're doing your dilution, and you're good to go. And that's really what's really cool about this formulation is that because it's so gentle and because it's so comprehensive, you don't have to worry about those scary scientific over fertilizing, burning your plants type things. And so we really wanted to offer consumers something that they couldn't mess up. And so we do actually have a really cool plant guide on our website where you can filter by light levels, by whether or not it's pet safe, how challenging we think that that plant is to keep. And, you know, that's a little bit in the eye of the beholder, but those filters are a really great tool if you're thinking about getting a new plant or if you've just brought a plant home and you're wondering how to care for it. Clicking into each one of those plants will offer you information about the light required, the water levels, some additional details or some quick facts about some challenges you may face, as well as the fertilizing needs of those plants. So it's a really cool resource to take advantage of if you are a new plant parent or a plant parent 100 times over, but just have a new plant in your home that you're looking for a little extra advice on how to care for.
One other thing that we do talk about and say is that we need to do a lot of education, as I'm sure you do, because fertilizer is not the only thing that makes your plant grow. And I always joke, even if you give your plant Flourish, if you put it in your closet, it's still going to die. So there are other pieces of plant care that are very important as well, which is why our DMs on Instagram are always open, and we field customer emails all day about what do I do with this plant or that plant. Because there's a little bit more to plant care than just fertilizer. But typically fertilizer is the step that people are lacking on. So it's the step where you need a good product versus just kind of like water and light, which you have readily available in most homes. So we're the third step of plant care: water, light, then Flourish.
Wow. This is almost like rehearsed. That was...
It's almost like we've had this business for 2 years.
That was amazing. The more successful a customer is with plants, they're going to come back to buy more.
Absolutely.
And yeah, if their plants are dying all the time, they're just going to get discouraged. They're going to feel like, oh, if I do this again, I'm gonna have a bad time and I'm going to waste money. And so, you know, products like yours definitely help, educate the customer, for one, on a lot of the science behind it. It's really neat. It's really interesting. You've got a story behind the product, which also ties that emotional aspect to it. So kudos.
The average plant owner kills 7 houseplants before they can keep one alive. So if you have customers, or if you are listening and you are killing a handful of houseplants, just know that you are not alone. And know that if you keep trying and you keep learning, you will find the right plant for you. We always just say there's like no better feeling than seeing your plant grow, than a new leaf popping up on that plant that you have on your desk. It brings joy. It's exciting. You feel successful. So if you're in the midst of that 7 killing muck, it will end soon.
Lila, that's excellent advice. Like, don't stop at that number 7, right? You're so close. Yeah, but buy some Flourish and that'll help. But
Yes.
and even as somebody that's been into plants his whole life and it's like my job and I'm come to work in a greenhouse, literally just a couple days ago, I was on the phone with somebody walking around in my house, and my fiddle leaf fig had put on like a couple of new like shoots, and I was like, oh my God, my fiddle leaf fig had some new growth. And they're like, you are such a nerd. And I'm like, yep.
It never gets old. It never gets old.
Actually, I think you start caring more and you get like more excited, honestly. When you're taking better care of it and you see the results, it's like, wow, that's amazing. Like, it's so cool to have that wonder for the natural world and be able to bring it into your home.
It really is. Okay. Now I'm going to give you one more thing. And I know I said one more thing before, but I'm going to give you each one more thing. Lila.
Yes.
What is one thing that most people don't know about you, but they should?
About me personally.
Yeah.
One thing most people don't know about me. I love cooking. And cooking has always been like my happy place. And so even though I have a plant company, most days at the end of the day, you'll find me at home in my kitchen cooking something. I refuse to use recipes and I hate following instructions. And that is why I started a business instead of working for someone. So those are a few little things about me.
I love it. I love it. All right. Your turn, Kate.
So okay, so something
that your creative,
that's where I was gonna go. So I not as much time as I'd like to right now, but I do spend a decent amount of time in the ceramics studio. I've been doing ceramics for over 10 years now, so going on 15 years. And it's very cathartic to me. It's very relaxing. I'm a very sort of intense person when it comes to the business, I would say. Like my passion for it, my drive, like it really comes out in my work. But the flip side of that is I will spend hours and hours and hours speaking to absolutely no one, just working with clay in the ceramic studio, which I think is like the balance that I sort of strike in life. And I think I draw a lot of inspiration from art and just trying to be creative in general. I think there's a lot of places where you can draw inspiration from both the natural world, the art world. And I think that I try and bring that creativity into the business. And just, I don't really feel constrained by like traditional, like I don't really understand how boxes work. So like, I don't really
if we have to put a box together,
spatial relations I'm really bad at. So I think that's both like a metaphor for how I think about business and then like how my life sort of works. And so, yeah, I think, well, by day, I'm like this intense, like, I love the business and stuff. I'm also like probably the least type A person you could ever meet, which I'm sure presents lots of challenges for being a business partner, I know it presents challenges for being a business partner.
It's good that we're friends.
But it also, I think, has opened a lot of doors and also made this entrepreneurial journey like very true to kind of who each of us are in different ways.
Well, it sounds like you two balance each other very well, and I picture you just with putting your headphones in and making a clay pot or something, just kind of getting into your thoughts. So I think that's pretty cool. Both of you are very impressive individuals. I think that this is wonderful. Thank you so much for taking this time, and we appreciate you supporting us as well. And hopefully we can sell a lot of Flourish and help people to be more successful with their plants.
Thank you for supporting us. We are so grateful to be in your stores, to be on your site, to be on this podcast and this platform. And we always say it's on our bottles. Let's grow together.
Absolutely. Okay, Kate and Lila from Flourish Plant. thank you so much for joining us on the Talking Ship podcast, and we'll see you all next time.
Thanks so much.
Bye.
Bye, y'all.